Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to NPTEL's course on communication skills. I have been discussing on this module on oral presentation. This is module number 10 and lecture number 2. In this second lecture, we will be continuing with the lecture we had on oral presentation already. And in the overall frame of the whole module, you will learn basically the mechanics of oral presentation, and under this mechanics I have divided the module into 3 components. The first one is to overcome fear. Fear is the basic deterrent in making somebody a very successful speaker. So first we are dealing with overcoming fear, followed by developing confidence. In the first lecture, I already covered all the major topics related to overcoming fear, and just to quickly recapitulate, I focused mostly on using your confidence, taking risk, because even physically, biologically, we have the hormone adrenaline in us, which secretes, the hormone adrenaline secretes during fight or flight situation. Now, public speaking, oral presentation is one such situation in which if you confront yourself with that situation, that response that you get in fight or flight situation will help you to get that extra energy, which will make you perform much better. So it's better to take the risk, develop confidence, face public speaking than avoiding it. So that's what I was trying to conclude in the previous lecture. To continue with the aspect of developing confidence and becoming a professional is what we are going to do in this lecture. Now, I'll give a brief overview to becoming a professional in terms of oral presentation. You should view as well as preview the venue. That is, you should know the room, the auditorium where you are going to give the presentation. This is the first and foremost rule. Followed by this, once you reach there, you should welcome the viewer. You should greet the audience. I will be explaining all these things slightly in an elaborate manner soon, but first let me tell what is the overview in a very nutshell. Master your material. You should know your material and you should be thorough with your material. Calm your mind. You should learn to relax your mind. You should go there with a relaxed stage of mind. Visualize yourself speaking. Think of speaking. Last lecture I concluded, don't just think of speaking, but also think of emerging as a very successful speaker. But once you have done the first exercise, now you start thinking of the process of delivering a talk. So visualize yourself speaking, and then overall, when you think of nervousness, when you think of people, realize that people want a winning leader. That means people want you to lead, people want you to succeed, people want you to deliver a terrific presentation, and people want you to be applauded. So they are not sitting there so that they'll corner you, but they want you to take the leading role. And generally you should avoid apologies. You should not say sorry for anything, and you should not put yourself in such a situation. Focus on your message. Once you start the delivery, focus on your message, not the medium, such as bothering about grammatical mistakes in the language that you are using as a medium to communicate your ideas. So avoid such thing and then focus on the message, on the content, on the subject matter. Then turn nervousness into positive energy, and overall you should gain experience by making yourself undergo this public speaking oral presentation experience as and when possible. Now let me further elaborate on these points. The first point, view the venue. When I say view, at least get time to go and have a look at the venue. the auditorium in which you're going to present, the room, the conference room in which your presentation will be held. Now, if time permits, I would suggest that you don't just view, you try to review. In the sense, you just go there, be there around, take a look at how big the auditorium is, even look at the ways from which, the gates from which audience will enter, how many gates are there, will there be so much commotion when you are giving a talk. Get used to the whole room, familiarize yourself, keep walking, sit on one of the corner, come to the front bench, go to one side, sit somewhere in the middle, and then take the stage. If you look at veteran, skilled, dramatic presenters, actors, what they would do is, or any kind of stage performers, what they would do is, before they actually come for the presentation, they would go a day before. And then they would like to have a final rehearsal on the stage itself. Remember, just like the way you would prepare for your presentation, they would have taken so many rehearsals before coming to the final presentation on the stage. Now, just like that, you also just go to the stage, just like these people are going, look at the podium, look at the place, look at the venue, and then from there, you, even if time permits, if nobody is there, or if one or two friendly colleagues are there and they are allowing you to deliver the talk, you even deliver the talk even before a day. So, view the venue, become familiar with the place in which you will speak. That will help you to reduce your nervousness so much, and it will automatically instill in you so much confidence even before the actual formal presentation. Now, once you do this, and in the previous lecture I said that you should actually even know your audience. So, you should know the level of your audience, you should know what kind of input you can give it to your audience, what is their IQ level, what is their knowledge level. So, accordingly, you should have modified your lecture. Now, once you have done it, the next day when you are actually giving the talk, when the audience keep coming in, so you should be there to welcome the viewer. So, you should greet the audience. This is done informally. So, you may just be there, can greet the audience as they arrive, just smile, maintain eye contact. So, if there are one or two known faces, you can even shake hands and just be there, ask them a few informal questions. What motivated them to come for the lecture? Why are they there? What are they expecting? And so on. So, you may even get some very positive, encouraging remarks even before you start. So, unlike the way you have underestimated you, some of the audience would be having very high opinion about you. So, they may be saying that they are really looking forward to a very interesting lecture. That's why they have come. More than that, it will also help you to size up the audience. What is it they know already? What is it they are really keen on knowing from you? So, apart from this, it will also help you to be friendly, create a kind of friendliness, so that even slight remote chance of animosity could be reduced in this initial welcoming of the viewer. Now, once you have done it, you should have, even before doing it, you should have mastered the material. That is, you should know the material thoroughly. It's not just enough that you borrowed material from somebody and then you assimilated it. You don't know how to start, how to end, and then somebody has told everything, but you do not know how to do it on your own. No, you should not actually give a speech in such a circumstance. Unless you know the material, unless you are thorough, unless you have mastered it, you should not go and venture a talk. Otherwise, you will create a very bad impression. So, master your material and even practice your speech or presentation beforehand. Then, once on the stage, learn to calm your mind, relax your nerves. There are exercises that help you to engage in terms of releasing tension. There are exercises that will let you to release tension. In the previous lecture, I said that just take a deep breath. So, breathing deeply. Just you take the air, inhale and exhale, that itself is good enough. But then there are other techniques, like they say the so-called rowing technique. They say that when you exhale and inhale, so you take a deep breath and then you relieve it, just like the way you are rowing a boat. So you take the breath and then you release it. Now this will again help you to reduce tension, and it will again make you feel calm in your mind. So try to engage yourself in these kind of exercises. If you are a regular uh, exerciser, just like if you are a regular person who will do yoga and all that, I need not tell you these things. But then even otherwise, these small tips would be of great help, especially when you are nervous just before the talk. Then visualize yourself speaking. In the previous lecture I said visualize yourself winning, getting a standing ovation. But just before that, few hours, few days before, keep visualizing yourself speaking. How would I go there? How would I stand before the podium? How would I use the blackboard? Or how am I going to operate the PowerPoint? Do I need some help, or do I have a remote by which I can run it? Do I set the time? So how do I do all these things? So when I move from one slide to another, what do I do? Where do I look at? Now visualize. How would I do? What things would I do naturally, and what things would I do inadvertently? Will I make any mistake? So what kind of mistakes I did before? Now keep all these things in your mind and visualize the way that you're speaking there, but visualize that you're doing it successfully. Now what will happen if you're able to visualize that you're delivering it successfully? Success automatically follows. It's only when you think that you cannot even go to the stage, there is a mental block in your mind. So visualize that success is achievable once you are on the stage, and visualize that you are actually giving a successful talk, and definitely success comes to you. Then as far as the audience are concerned, the people among the audience want a winning leader. What do I mean by this? If you remember in the lecture that I gave you on group discussion, I made a differentiation between group discussion and public speaking or oral presentation. In group discussion, I emphasize the point that you are discussing with the group. Now in public speaking, I would emphasize the point, it's not the group, it's the individual. It's a kind of, in a sense, one-way traffic. Unless the audience are interactive or you create interaction with the audience, it's just you giving the information to the audience. In that sense, the audience have, by virtue of the fact that you are the speaker, have already endowed with you the position of a leader. Now they have already acknowledged you as a leader, and they just don't want a leader to remain like that. They want a winning leader. What does it mean? They want you to deliver it successfully. They want you not only to deliver it successfully, they understand that you being a good leader, you have decided certain things for the audience. You have made a good decision about time plan. You had even planned what should go and how it should go in advance. You had thought of coherence, you had thought of impact. So this is what they are thinking of you as a leader, as a person who is coming and giving a talk before them. Then I said they want you as a winning leader. What does it mean? The audience wants speakers to succeed, not fail. Especially if there are some troublemakers among the audience, and then they are troubling you with very unparliamentary questions, sometimes very silly remarks, personally damaging criticisms, which would make any strong person feel weak, feel low. But despite that, what the audience actually expect is that they still feel that the leader, the speaker, would do something to settle the troublemakers. So if you are there, so do not think that if somebody is becoming antagonistic towards your speech, somebody is over interfering. So audience actually want you to control the person. So do not expect the audience to do something. Of course, there are some very generous and great people among the audience who would also come for your rescue. but do not count on them. Rather, the audience psyche is that you do something and control the troublemakers and emerge as a winner. So the leadership role is given to you, and then they want the speaker to take the lead, and they want to tackle the problematic audience among them. So keep that in mind. They want you to win, they don't want you to lose. Once you are clear about this, once you realize that they want a leader and they want a very powerful leader whom they can admire, whom they can take as a model. Now, once they have this kind of thing in the mind, so you have greater roles, responsibilities. So do not go and say sorry for anything. Especially avoid apologizing for your nervousness. Do not go and tell them that I'm really sorry, I'm less prepared today, so I don't know, I'm feeling a bit nervous, I'm feeling a bit weak, so I hesitate, I don't know how to deliver the talk. Now, do not make any apologies. Be calm, be firm, be assertive, be clear, and then try to deliver your talk. You do not have to be apologetic for your nervousness, because almost 10 times I've been repeatedly saying that nervousness is something that's common to everybody in the world, and it is a universal feeling even for greatly experienced actors, politicians, and orators for the first few minutes. Okay. In fact, nervousness is good. It's only when you feel you will be anxious about giving a very good presentation. If you are not having any nervousness at all, it may also mean that you may be overconfident. So, knowing that nervousness is not a bad thing, do not start your speech with an apology. In fact, avoid apology for anything. In fact, don't put yourself in a situation where you are apologizing. So, that's really a bad thing. Apology even for the fact that you reached the venue late and you kept the audience waiting. There's no forgiveness for that. If you are the speaker, you should be there in advance, you should be there much before the audience, and you should not make the audience wait. Even if you are a great person, even if you are a VIP, it's imperative that you are there, or just at the time when you have specified, at least you are there. Begin the speech without a single minute delay. So that calls for professionalism. And when you are having that kind of professionalism, you don't have to apologize for anything. Don't put yourself in such a situation where you are compelled to apologize. Don't do that. Focus on your message. Concentrate on your message. Concentrate on the content. Don't worry about the medium. What does it mean? Do not nurture anxieties, but concentrate on your message. Now, right now, I'm just giving a talk on oral presentation. I'm giving some tips on how to muster up your courage, how to develop your confidence. I'm also suggesting that you should become a professional in that. Now, my mind should be always thinking about the ideas that I should deliver to you. In my mind, at this moment, I should not think, oh, I committed a grammatical mistake. My pronunciation was wrong at that point. I should apologize. I should say sorry. I should correct myself. Now, actually, if I do that, or if you do that, by not focusing on the content, but focusing on the language or the medium that you are using to convey the message, that you are using to convey the content, what will happen is unnecessarily you are distracting the attention of the audience. The audience are actually not interested in the kind of language that you are using. So that may be a kind of cosmetic touch, but actually they are interested in the message. As long as you have a powerful message to deliver, as long as you are so sure about the message that you are going to deliver, so you don't have to worry about the way it will be delivered to the audience. Although later, as a very seasoned and experienced speaker, you will develop your own style. You will have a way of delivering things. You will develop felicity of expression, and then you will talk without any flaw. But that's for a later stage. As an amateur oral presenter, you don't have to worry about what medium you are using, what language you are using, what kind of structure you are using to convey your ideas. Forget all those things. Focus just on the content. the message. So that will reduce your anxiety. That will make you much more confident. And then, like I said before, that fight or flight response, when it is evoked in you, it's actually giving you some extra boost up energy. So if you remember that, I would like to add this point that turn your nervousness into positive energy. Now, nervous energy is an asset to you. Instead of thinking that nervous energy is something bad, something negative, understand that nervous energy is an asset to you. Harness it, release it, and transform it into vitality and enthusiasm. The first time you are nervous, the first time you are afraid of giving a talk, but then you experienced it, you sustained it, you withstood it. The second time you are much more confident and you pick up threads from where you left before, and some of the simple errors that you committed, you overcome, or you make attempts for overcoming those errors in the next one. And in the third one, fourth one, once you keep on continuing, what happens at the end is that you have utilized that nervousness to a very positive level. You have used that nervousness as a kind of vital energy in you. Now you know that it's a kind of excitement, it's a kind of thrill, it's a kind of adventurous trip. Yeah, sometimes when you go for climbing over mountains, so initially the task appears to be very arduous, but once you have done that hiking, trekking, mountaineering, you come down, rest on that day. The next day you feel that when will I go there again? When will I get another opportunity? Same thing happens with regard to public speaking, oral presentation. Initially you are afraid, initially you are nervous, but then you learn to pick up, you learn to change, you learn to develop. You need to utilize that nervous energy into a very vital component in you, and you want to get the thrill, you want to get that kick out of you again and again. So what you do, you look for more such presentations, you look for more such opportunities. And initially you happen to be the person who ran away from such situations, but now you are looking forward towards such situation. Why? Because that nervous energy has been contained in you in a very positive form. Instead of pulling you down, it's pushing you up now. One step up in the ladder, and then you're not satisfied, it's pushing you to climb more steps. And then you realize that it's a kind of endless process, a process that you enjoy throughout. Now, once you do that, simultaneously, you also learn to gain experience. Now, what happens? It's experience that will build up confidence in public speaking. Rome was not built in a day, as the saying goes, and your ability to speak well will not be contained in a single speech. You started something, you delivered it, you prepared so thoroughly, you delivered a good talk, everybody praised you. Let's say you even got standing ovation for it. Fine. But that's not the end of it. That was done 1 month before. Such a thing was done last year. What about now? What about this year? Now, if you again become weak, again become nervous, and if you think that no, that was before a different kind of audience, but before this kind of audience, I cannot deliver such a talk. Now, that again means you are lacking in experience. So, you have to gain experience. Remember, when somebody went to Gandhiji and said that he's afraid of dark. So, Gandhiji said that if you're afraid of darkness, the only remedy, the only solution to that is make yourself familiar with that. That means if you're afraid of walking in the dark, he said, walk as many times as possible in the darkness. So, that will give you the enlightening moment that there's nothing in dark and you're quite confident. Now, same thing goes with public speaking. If you're afraid of reaching the stage, now put yourself in that situation where you feel like going there again and again. You go there again and again, deliver as many talks as possible, and automatically that stage fear is something that you will laugh at, and you will start telling people that that stage fear is nothing. So you will become an experienced speaker and you will start giving tips to others. Now, having discussed this much about gaining confidence and building up your personality traits towards a professional public speaker. Let's look at some mechanics, the structural aspect of public speaking. What are the main objectives of public speaking? What are the aims? What are the goals of public speaking? Now, basically, any story, let's say any part of literature, any part of a lesson, is anything that is having an audience will have the general aim of entertaining and educating. So, public speaking also has that aim. First, it is to entertain. So, you will find speakers who are there just to interest or amuse the audience. People are interested in somebody who is mimicking, somebody who is making jokes, somebody who is making stand-up comedies, just like the way they are interested in listening to a speech. So do not be confused about it. You cannot say that I'm here, I'm an intellectual, I'm an elite, I will only deliver very informative message. Now, unless you are going to sugarcoat your pill, which is otherwise bitter, unless you are going to present it in a presentable manner, in a pleasing manner, good appearance, and then sweet outside, and slowly inject your message, the audience will not take it from you gracefully. So it's important to realize that there is this entertaining component in public speaking. The moment you are on the stage, you are there to make the audience feel good. You give any kind of information. At the end of it, they should feel happy. They should have something to carry with them. They should have no regrets about having come to your speech. So to entertain, in that sense, you should try to interest, you should try to amuse the audience. Now, once that part is fulfilled, that objective, keep in mind that you are there primarily not just to entertain, you are using entertainment as a kind of attractive strategy, but actually you are there to educate. You are there to teach them something. You are there to inform something. You are there to create an awareness of something. Suppose you are going to talk about environmental pollution to somebody who has no idea of throwing plastic bags into some sewage or even into some river. They think that nothing will happen. So you are there to cause an awareness. You are there to educate them. So to educate in the sense of informing or teaching the audience is the basic component, basic objective of public speaking, which will be sugar coated with the aim of entertaining them also. Now, I said generally even any literature has this aim of educating and entertaining. But apart from that, public speaking has two more objectives. The next objective, the next goal is to provoke them. Why should they come for a presentation? Why should they come for oral presentation? Why can't they read the material by sitting at home? Now, they are there because they know that when they go there, the presenter will be able to make them think. By looking at the person performing in a very lively manner, could provoke their ideas directly, which otherwise, when they read it, they may miss it also. They may not get that impact. By the power of words, by the power of expression, by the body language, by the style, the charisma, the speaker can actually provoke the thoughts. So, provoking, that is to stimulate and to impress the audience. This is the next major goal of public speaking. And followed by this is the objective, the goal, that is to influence. They are educated, they are entertained, they are provoked to think. Now, what do you expect after you have provoked them, after you have stimulated their thoughts? You want them to do something. You influence them with your own ideas. You convince them, you persuade them to do something. So, once they listen to you, at the end of it, they try to do what you want them to do. So, if you are able to do that, On the one hand, you become successful as a good communicator. On the other hand, the audience also feel good that you have made them do something based on the talk that you have delivered. So it's a win-win kind of situation. So general goals of public speaking: to educate, entertain, provoke and influence. Now, once you know that these are the goals and objectives, you should also know that you should structure your speech. What do I mean by structuring your speech? So you should have given a framework. You should have given a thought to it. In fact, some people even just create a mental map, or some people even just draw a kind of skeleton on a paper. So they draw lines, they put some lines across, and then they add the points. So structure your speech around 3 or 4 major points. Now, in fact, those major points, if I ask you, so what about your speech? So you say that I'm going to speak on a particular topic. Then I ask you, if that is your speech about, what are the central ideas? So then you say, oh, first 10 minutes I am going to talk about this, next 15 minutes I'll be talking about this, and then followed by this and followed by this. So you tell me in 4 points, 4 major topics about your topic. So that becomes your main structure. Now, once you said this, you also try to analyze which point should come first, and you learn to present according to the order in which you can influence the audience. Maybe the point that you have thought well of need not come at the beginning. You need not think that this is the point I thought first and then I gathered other points. Now, you don't have to give the same point to the audience first. It may be even the last point that you are presenting before the audience, and then leaving it with a very lasting impact. So structure your speech around 3 or 4 major points, and once you have done, keep the audience interested by a few anecdotes. It's not just the points, but then link the points with some interesting stories, some incidences, so that the points will be reverted in their mind so deeply. If you do not use some interesting anecdotes, the points will slip off from their mind. So try to link that with few anecdotes. And once you have done, just like if you see the newsreader, try to summarize your main points in one sentence. Now, once you finish everything, just try to summarize. In fact, if you could summarize then and there, every 15 minutes, one quick summary, another 15 minutes, another quick summary, and last but not the least, when you are about to conclude, just summarize all the main points very quickly. If you observe newsreaders, especially on TV, when you observe, so they'll first show you the headlines or the breaking news at the beginning, and then while they try to conclude, they will again recapitulate all the main points very quickly. So that's what you should also do when you are giving oral presentation, and make sure that you end on a strong positive point. The world has enough of negativity. Nobody is expecting that you end your lecture with a pessimistic note. Do not end that with a negative point. They want you to end with a very strong positive point. So structure goes like this, mainly 4 or 5 points, and these points have illustrative examples, interesting anecdotes, and once you are drawing their attention to their anecdotes, lest not they get distracted, you also summarize then and there and introduce the main points once again, and towards concluding, you conclude that with a positive note. Do not conclude with negativity. Then, how do you make the presentation as such? If you read any book on public speaking, the most famous ones like Dale Carnegie's book on public speaking, any other book, they generally tell the things in very simple manner. In fact, Dale Carnegie is one person who suggests this one, and there are others who have suggested similar thoughts. So they talk about making the presentation and they say that just remember 3 things when you're going to make the presentation. What are the 3 things? First, tell the audience what you're going to tell them. This means give a preview, give an overview. Tell them, in this talk, I'm going to tell you this. If you're using a PowerPoint presentation, in the first slide, you tell them what you're going to tell them. In fact, if you have 5 slides and 5 headings, even all the 5 headings, you can put it on the first slide. And you can tell them, these are the 5 points I'm going to discuss in this lecture. I have 5 slides or I have 10 slides to illustrate this point. So tell them first what you are going to tell them. Now, once you have done that, the next part is the body, the main part, the descriptive part of your talk. Now, in this part, just tell them whatever you want to tell them. So, here you are telling the main points, using the anecdotes, illustrating, and then even then and there trying to summarize. Now, once you have told them, just before conclusion, at the time of concluding, you also try to tell them at the end what you actually have told them. So, look at this, making the presentation in that sense is so simple. If you are able to structure your ideas in this manner, and remember that you just tell the audience what you are going to tell them, and then tell them, and then towards the end, you just try to recollect whatever you have told them, recapitulate. Now, in this way, what happens? The audience have a rough idea even before you start, and when you explain it, they understand it very clearly. And when you recapitulate, when you summarize and tell them, this is what I have told you, they find even a very great idea to be so simple. And they'll be thankful to you for the fact that you expressed that very nicely and succinctly. Now, once you have done that, let's look at some other techniques of beginning, for instance. How do you begin? Now, when you begin itself, you should start strong, and at the same time when you end, you should also end it very strong. So, start strong, finish strong. Like they say, first impression is the best impression. So, when you begin itself, begin with a very interesting anecdote, and when you are ending, you can end with a kind of note that will create a lasting impression. You can begin with the question. You can open with a story. You can start with a quote, or you can use a startling statement. So, either way, your main aim is to capture the attention of the audience at the beginning itself. You may use a question, you ask them a factual question so that you make them think and you make them involved, or open with a story which they have not heard of so far. Everybody is interested in listening to your story, so they will also become attentive. They'll be all ears to the story that you are going to tell. You also start with a quote, especially a very interesting quote. So that will again make them gravitate towards your topic. You also use a startling statement. That is, it should shock them. So you begin with that kind of shock, stunning statement. And then they realize that, oh, if it will go like this, so this is what will happen. So that startling thing can wake up literally from their slumber and get them relate towards your talk. Now, with these points, so you'll be able to start. Now, I'll also tell you how to continue, how to go about in the middle part, and then how to continue. In the next few slides, I'll be discussing those points also. Why should we go for a very important beginning? Why should we be bothered about good beginnings? Why should we use anecdotes? Why should we use quotations? Why should we use startling statements in the beginning? It's basically for 2 reasons. In the opening, you should learn to establish relevancy of topic to audience. Now, by using interesting anecdotes, by starting with interesting quotations, you'll be able to bring their attention, draw their attention to your topic. So sometimes even interesting stories will make them revert to the topic. So they'll look forward. You're opening up their mind. This is on the one hand, creating relevancy, establishing relevancy. But at the same time, you also get audience involvement. So when you tell a startling statement, the audience who are murmuring otherwise, talking to somebody or looking at something, scribbling something, they all stop and then they look at your face. They want to know why you made such a statement, or they're expecting an answer. So you're trying to sort it out in the body of the talk. So it's important that you try to create this relevancy of your topic in the opening itself, and at the same time you try to get audience involvement by doing that relevancy. Now when you make the first point, what should you do? The first point is again very important, because you should use very clear language to state the point. The language should be very clear. So you should not use an ambiguous language that would mean more than one thing to the audience. State it very clearly in a simple language, the first point, because that is the most important point from which you are developing your ideas. If the audience would not understand that first point, the audience will lose coherence in the following points. So you make it very clear. Then use evidence, both verbal and visual, to support your point. Evidence can be both verbal, that is, you can tell a story, but at the same time you can also show some pictures. If you have the possibility of using some animation, some clips from movies, some clips from some recorded activities, so that will also rivet the attention of the audience. So use evidence, both verbal as well as visual. So do not think that you use only words, but also use images. Having done that, amplify your point with an incident or anecdote. That is, elaborate your point using an incident or using a story. Then develop a logical transition or bridge to your next point. Instead of jumping to a point which looks otherwise incoherent, try to give connectivity. In fact, you can use connectives. For instance, you can say, on the one hand, talk about one point which is contrary to the next point you are going to talk about. So you say on the one hand, and then you say on the other hand, or use connectives like but, however, nonetheless, nevertheless. Now all these things will make the audience understand that now you are going to a different point. Now if you are going to talk about a similar point, you can say similarly, just like what I said before, in connection to what I said previously, in a similar vein. So suppose you are going to give a parallel thought, you can say simultaneously. Now these connectives will also help them relate to the previous thought with the next one. You can also give connectivity in terms of sequencing your ideas or arranging them chronologically. One thing happens and the next thing follows, or giving cause effect kind of linkage. But in whatever manner you do, make them follow it easily. So give them a logical transition or bridge to your next point. So you have started, you have continued. Now when you come for the close, the closing point, what you should do is, as I said before, you should summarize your points, at least the main points. And then after doing the main points, if you can finally conclude with a single statement, that will recapitulate everything but leave a lasting impression, that's well and good. Now in some case, you have to tell them that you are going to conclude. So you may say, in conclusion, as a closing thought, finally, towards the end, the last point, and so on, to make them realize that you are going to conclude. And when you really conclude, you state your conclusion. So I would like to conclude with the idea, with the summarization of this point. So you just tell them what you are doing in conclusion, and then you have started with the topic, you elaborated it in the middle. Now while concluding, the way you started with some kind of relevance, end with the relevance to the audience. Conclude it, but make them also realize how relevant it is for them to think ahead. Now that's about structuring your speech, delivering it in a systematically logical way, and concluding it. Now while doing it, what about your body language? So the words will actually deliver your message, but your body language is something that will carry those message easily across, or it can also mar your presentation. So what kind of body language you should have? Now before you go and have it, you first study yourself in a mirror. If you go back to the lectures that I had on body language, non-verbal communication, you will get all the tips related to having a very positive body image. Now, even if you do not remember those tips which were given in those lectures, just a self-analysis, going and standing yourself before a mirror, and then study yourself, give the talk before the mirror. Now look at yourself. Are you doing something that you think is not pleasant for you to look at? Stop doing it. If you can't look at your face doing something, if you feel that the way your hand is moving is not good, if you think that the posture you are maintaining is not exuding confidence, it's creating a very poor image, you change it first. So self-analysis before a mirror, before actually you go there and enhance your positive body image. Then why we are focused about it, you should know that body language is something that reflects what you are saying. It tries to correlate your thoughts. Imagine somebody talking, like now I am talking, I am also using my hands, but suppose if I am just standing firm and then saying something like a machine, only my mouth will be moving, but hand will not move, there's no expression. So very soon you will lose interest in my talk. Very soon you will feel like switching off your computer or your video, and you will think that why should I listen to such a lecture. Now what happens is, body language is something that is enhancing, it's that's creating the impact, and audience are more focused, and audience get the message with impact only when you learn to use your body language effectively. So it's actually reflecting what you are saying. You will see some mathematics professors, when they want to see circle, so they may be even exactly saying circle, they'll be using their hand. When they say triangle, they will use their hand in a triangular shape. So it exactly reflects what's there in their mind. When they say 2, they'll be showing 2. So it just reflects what's there in the mind automatically, naturally. So it's very important for the audience to know, apart from the words, what's happening in your mind using your body language. Now once you understand this, relax your facial muscles and smile. Now smiling, they say that, is actually giving you a very good personality, body image, but at the same time it's relaxing your face from the stressed, worried kind of look. So that also creates a kind of reflexive response among the audience. They also feel relaxed and open to your talk. Then once you make a point in terms of body language, even the tone, the way you are performing, so you should not talk so fast. Once the point is made, just give a very brief pause. Now when you give a pause, what happens is, you're giving time for the audience to reflect over that thought in their mind. When you do not do that, you're just ramming one idea over other, overlapping of thoughts, and they are not able to divide that into proper shape. So give a pause, meaningful pass, that also comes under the soft skills aspect of body language. And eye contact, which I've been telling from the beginning, whichever talk on communication skills, I keep emphasizing on eye contact. So eye contact initially with someone who is approachable, especially if you're an amateur, if you're not that experienced in giving oral presentation or public speech, what you should do is, among the audience, you will always find somebody nodding at whatever you are saying. There is somebody who is smiling at you. Okay, now look at that person, somebody who is accepting you wholeheartedly for what's and all. Whatever mistake you commit, that person is just looking at you, and then he or she is actually appreciative. Now focus on that person. Imagine as if your whole message is meant for the person, and slowly you start maintaining eye contact over the other people in the audience. Otherwise, the rest of the audience would feel also left out. But just to begin with, just to muster up your courage, focus on the people who approach you in a friendly manner. So maintain eye contact to those people. And more about eye contact, when you are maintaining that, so you should try to maintain throughout. It's not like that sometimes you suddenly try to avoid some eye contact because it looks embarrassing on the one hand. On the other hand, there are other aspects of maintaining that rapport. Now, suppose you are given a podium, and then suppose you are standing before that podium, avoid hiding. What do I mean by avoid hiding? Now, suppose this podium is there, some people will put it and they will try to hide. So, they don't try to show their face. So, try to avoid that hiding. Or sometimes if there is a table, so they will try to go behind the table. They don't want to expose their body completely before the audience. Now, avoid that kind of hiding. Avoid looking nervous. If you think that you are nervous, as I said, there's no problem, but you avoid looking nervous. Tell your mind, okay, I'm nervous, but I'm cool. So, and I'm cheerful. Create a cheerful disposition. Automatically, that will change your inner thinking. Look into the eyes of Alice. Some people who are not friendly, but then they are just, you're not very sure. They may become your enemies, but they may become your friends, neither here nor there. Just look into their eyes. Once again, it will also try to calm them down. Now, if there are opponents, and if you are finding it very embarrassing to look into the eyes of your opponents, for your people who are likely to support you, you can look into their eyes. But for your opponents, you know that they are your enemies. Now, looking into their eyes, again, they are staring at you. So, you feel that some kind of heat is building up, some kind of hostility. Now, on such occasions, it is suggested you look at the forehead. Okay, you don't look into the eyes, you look at the forehead part. So, when you look at this part, the audience will get a feeling that actually you are looking at them. But again, it's a kind of win-win situation. You are not actually looking into their eyes, you are just looking above. But they still have a feeling that you are trying to maintain that rapport. So, look on the forehead if you are afraid of looking into the eyes of your opponents directly. Having said this, you should also understand that visual aids also form part of your non-verbal communication along with body language. Now, what should you do with visual aids? Now, when you put something on your overhead projector or on even PowerPoint, now when you are talking, do not put that too much, especially when it is projected on the screen. So, do not put that aid so much that audience lose track of what you are telling, and then their whole attention is focused on the picture, not on you. So, you have to give proper timing and then remove that visual aid. Then, as far as body postures are concerned, use open postures. Now, closing your hand, closing your arm, putting it on the back side. Now, all these things should be avoided. Open palm, indicating that you are open to ideas, and then using the palm to gesture your thoughts freely. So that's a welcoming thing. And then when you gesture with your hands, you can use for emphasis. Another important point that's part of body language is some people, when they try to go for public speaking, they start using an accent which is totally unacceptable, which is sounding so ugly, uncouth. They imagine that, especially if they have to give a talk in English, they think that they should imitate an American or a Britisher and end up fooling themselves, annoying the audience, and in sometimes the audience start laughing at the kind of accent the person is trying to emulate, which the person is not able to do successfully. The audience keep making fun of him. Now, don't do that, but try to speak in a natural tone. You don't have to, if you are an Indian, you don't have to speak like an American or a Britisher in terms of accent, but at least be clear in terms of enunciating your ideas. So if you're able to do that clearly and naturally, that calls for your body language in terms of the soft skills. Now, just before I conclude my lecture, I'll briefly tell about some delivery tools related to body language. Now, you should bother about your posture. You should bother also about your eye contact, facial expression, hand gestures, and then appropriate dress. In terms of voice qualities, you should be concerned about your volume. Sometimes it's a huge auditorium and your mic quality is not that good, or you do not even have a mic. You have to shout at such a pitch so that the people on the last bench are able to listen to you. There's no point in just mumbling to the front seaters, and losing touch with the audience. So keep the volume quality in mind. Inflection, modulation, rising, changing your tone as and when required. Articulation, saying the words fully, for instance. There are some people who are habituated to mumble or say something only off. They'll not say the remaining part. They'll not complete a sentence fully. So in articulation, you articulate it fully, and the rate. So there is a pace, there is a speed even in the delivery. Now some audience, if they are highly matured, they will appreciate a higher speed. But if some audience, they are not up to that pace, they would expect a slower rate. So you should know how to modulate your speech according to the level of the audience and rate your voice qualities. Now, having said this, I'll talk about more qualities of body language in the next lecture. And after talking about that body language, I will also talk about some aspects of language as such, which you should use to make your oral presentation very effective. And then I'll try to give you some more tips. So that will be on the next lecture. So keep thinking about this lecture, in which I have highlighted some very important points on making you a very professional oral presenter, starting from how to overcome your fear, going ahead with how to make some starting focal points at the beginning, how you should go about, and then how you should conclude. So far in this module, we are trying to build up your confidence by making you overcome your fear in terms of oral presentation, and slowly to make you a professional and try to win a standing ovation for whichever presentation that you are going to give. So thank you so much. We'll meet in the next lecture. Till then, bye.